Ahead and get started.
Hi, everybody. I'm Coach Sam Balto. I was a physical education teacher in Boston, Washington, D.C., and in Portland. I did walking school buses for 6 years, and then I started doing bike buses for 6 years, and they've been a great success in terms of getting kids excited to go to school, building strong communities, helping kids build stronger independence. Uh, Being physically active for kids is really important, especially before school. It helps them focus better, better social relationships. They get in trouble less. So, anything we can do to support kids getting to school, especially in the morning, sets them up in a positive way for the rest of the school day.
Awesome. Okay, well, we'll just go ahead and go right into your presentation if you want to do that.
Sure thing.
Okay.
So yeah, this is me, Coach Balto. I actually took a leave from teaching to start a nonprofit called Bike Bus World, and we support people like yourselves starting bike buses or walking school buses around the country and around the world. We offer free one-to-one coaching, so if you still have questions at the end of this, you can reserve a 30-minute chat with me, and let's get into it. So we've seen a massive decline in kids walking and biking to school over the past 50 plus years. And so bike buses, walking school buses are a great way to sort of help reverse that trend. And I always say that parents are in this vicious cycle where they want to be perceived as good parents. And in our current culture, that seems to mean removing all barriers or uncomfortable situations for our children, but thus creates this vicious cycle where parents are driving their kids to keep their kids safe, which then makes it more unsafe for other kids. So then those kids' parents drive them. And now you can see how we're stuck in this situation. And I always say if parents were allowed to drive their children to the front door of their kids' classroom, they would, not because they want to, but because every other parent is doing it. And so the bike bus is a great tool to sort of change that culture. And if a group of parents and community members are riding bikes to school together, it breaks this vicious cycle. Like I said, I'm a physical education teacher, so I'm always trying to find ways to help kids get more physical activity. At the schools that I was teaching at, the kids only had PE once a week. They'd have recess once a day for 15 minutes. So when you can build that physical activity into their schedule, it really helps them get those 60 minutes. I started doing walking school buses. I was telling everybody earlier, the first walking school bus I had 5 students. And so you always have to start somewhere. And I was so excited to have those 5 students. But when you do it consistently, it's the power of consistency. We did it seasonally, so fall, winter, and spring. That's what our school was able to do, but we saw it grow. And every time we did it, it was more and more, and we tried different routes, and the routes that worked, we kept doing it, and the routes that didn't work, we tried other ones. So this is our first walking school bus we did, and this is the last one I did at the school. And you can see how much it's grown and just the excitement of our walking school bus. So I saw a video of a bike bus in the fall of 2021, and it was a BC bus video in Barcelona, kids riding in the street, incredibly joyful. And so I wanted to try it. So a bike bus is an organized group ride to school on a designated route. I really like this photo, kind of shows the sense of what's about to happen. We're at the top of the hill about to cross, and then there's kids on the side of the road waiting. We'll pass them, and then when there's sort of a calmer gap in the bike bus, those kids on the side will hop in and join. Like I said, this is the video of the Barcelona bike bus. And it's amazing how that video inspired so many people. And it's cool how my videos that I've posted of our bike bus have inspired so many people to start their own. And I always think about the naked shirt guy, the shirtless dancer guy. That's what he's called. There's a good TED talk about him. It's about how to start a movement. And, you got to have that one person who's just dancing with their shirt off. And in the TED talk, when they talk about how to start a movement, It's the second and third people who are actually the most important. So getting your team is really important. And what we've seen is that, when somebody wants to start a bike bus and they get a couple other people to do it with them, it grows. And there's bike buses all around the world now. Our nonprofit has a global map. There's over 500 routes globally, and it's a really amazing community that we're building. And when you build it, people will come. And the power of consistency and being inclusive and focusing on joy has really shown that it really moves the needle. We hear every year at like fall time towards the beginning of the school year that kids are learning how to ride their bikes over the summer so that they can participate in the bike bus. So now let's sort of talk about how to start a successful bike bus program. So you got to find some other families or some other community members to start it with. You want to make a map with meeting times and share it with everyone. I definitely recommend like printing out the flyer, putting a QR code that connects people to the communication channel. WhatsApp seems to be one that's pretty popular. And just hand it out to everyone. Hand the flyer out, let them know, like, hey, we're going to do this every Wednesday. We're going to do this every Friday, the first Tuesday of every month, whatever you all decide. You definitely do not need to do it daily. For it to have an impact, but weekly, monthly, seasonally, just try to do it more than once a year. And that kind of goes to number three, consistency. And what we find is that it grows over time, that families can plan accordingly if they know that it's happening. And I always say, a great time to start is the springtime, which is right around now. It's a great time to start planning. Do the bike bus, April, May, try to do it consistently towards the end of the year, weekly or monthly. And then you get the summer, families can plan accordingly and they will get ready for the fall and people will be more prepared to join. And finally, just do it. Even if it's 3 blocks, it makes a difference. I always think of this story when I did a walking school bus. We did it seasonally, but towards the end of one of the months, towards the end of the school year, we just did a walking school bus for 2 blocks from the park to the school. And I remember as we're walking, this dad rolls down his window and he goes, "Hey, can my daughter join?" And we're like, "Yeah, absolutely." He stops the car, runs out, gets his daughter, they cross the street, and she walks the rest of the way. And for that kid and that family, that kid, it's 2 more blocks of physical activity that they otherwise wouldn't have gotten. And for that dad, he doesn't have to wait in the school car line. He can go off to his job or back home, and it's less congestion, less pollution, and it's kind of a win-win-win for everybody. This is an example of a flyer that I would hand out. You can sort of see the starting point. You can have like specific stops where everybody sort of stops and you wait, or you could have a rolling stop. So our bike bus and this flyer, it's just a rolling stop. So spot B at 26 and going, we're never there before 8:25. We're usually there around 8:26. And so as we roll by, the families that are waiting there just roll on and wait for the gap and they join us. So picking a route, there's a lot of different ways to do that. I was a teacher for this example. So this one, I was a parent and I lived 3 blocks away from our meeting spot. So I tried to make it as easy for me as possible to show up consistently. This one is for the school I was teaching at. And I always like to look at the bus routes and find the bus stops that were between a mile and a mile and a quarter. I love school buses. They are an amazing service. And kids that live between a mile and a mile and a quarter is also a great bike bus route, or a walking school bus route. And so I kind of like to get a sense of where those kids live to sort of make sure that we can incorporate them if they want to participate. And this is our route map overlaid with all the students in the catchment zone. Our bike bus or our catchment zone is very northeast heavy, and so we pull a lot of kids, and thankfully we ride downhill. But you can do bike buses that go uphill. I was in Nevada City, and they have to go up 2 big hills, and they just plan it into the timing of the ride, and Kids build up the skills to be able to make it up the hill, and whenever they make it up, everybody's cheering for them, and then they continue riding. So this is the first flyer I did for Bike Bus for Earth Day. You can see how beyond basic it is, but yeah, I think it's pretty amazing when you go back and you look at these things and you're like, it doesn't have to be super fancy to start. Um, there's a great video of our Bike Bus for Earth Day that we got to have done. And then after our first one, our first bike bus ride, the kids wanted to do it more. And so we decided to do it every Wednesday. We added a new location. And now those two routes, there's two routes that leave at the same time. We meet at spot B, and then we ride the rest of the way to school together. And our bike bus has been very fortunate. We've gotten a lot of national news, but all the bike buses and, bigger cities, smaller towns, rural areas, it's something really positive that the community loves to come out and support. The news, police, city councilors, whatever it may be, let people know that it's happening and they love to highlight the amazing work that you're doing. So there's been a lot of research around bike buses. Portland State University did some. In Barcelona, they did some research about characteristics of bike buses. And in Glasgow, Scotland, they did research where they looked at drivers' perception of the bike bus. And what they found is that drivers actually were really patient by seeing the bike bus, that they weren't annoyed that they were maybe delayed a couple, 15, 30 seconds, a minute. They understood the purpose of it and that it was something valuable for the community. I will just never endingly communicate, just do it, just do it, just do it. You can make things really complicated in your life and you can make things really simple. Try to keep this as simple as possible, grow it over time, and you will be able to address more of the challenges that you might want to, address, but with a larger group of people, which just builds more consistency and more a stronger community to build that movement. But you don't have to go really big all at once. I like to sort of get ahead of the FAQs that might come up. So this is a photo of the Yellow Jackets. They're a group of dads. The kid second to the right is Beckett. He was a high school student. He taught my son how to ride a bike, and then he found out, he's like, oh, you run the bike bus. I'd love to volunteer. And so every Wednesday he woke up early before school and rode with us. So do you provide a ride home? You are most absolutely welcome to, but we do not. We think it's really important to allow the community, the kids, and the families to self-organize. And so, people are able to figure it out. They're able to reach out for help. Of course, if you want to do a route home, you are more than welcome to do a bike bus route in reverse. But if that's going to sort of push against your ability to do it consistently, I would strongly suggest not doing a ride home. Where do you store the bikes? That's a great question. Do I have a photo? I don't have a photo. You store the bikes where you can. We have a courtyard in the middle of our campus that's secure, so the kids put the bikes in the courtyard. But you have bike locks, and there's lots of creative solutions how to store your bikes. You could buy like a big chain with one key lock, and at the end of the day, you unlock it. I've heard of people getting a shipping container and putting the bikes in there during the day, but you're able to find solutions. And I think what's really great is, it really shows this latent demand for biking. So if your school doesn't have enough bike racks, you're showing the school district or the city that this is something that is really needed. What about cars? Great question. So as you can see in this picture, we're taking up the whole road. This is not a one-way street, but this is something in Portland called a neighborhood greenway. And neighborhood greenways are the preferred walking and biking routes. And so also in Portland, it is a grid network. So at any moment, if a driver is approaching us, they can turn right or left and still make it to their destination pretty easily. I really focus on safety, which is why we take the road, because taking the road makes it very clear to the drivers that they just need to pull over, wait a couple moments, and for us to pass. The last thing we want is for a driver to think that they can sneak by us and save a couple seconds, because this is an opportunity for kids to learn, and the way kids learn is by making mistakes. That's kind of how all of us learn. And so you want to create an environment that allows kids to learn by making mistakes, and cars and kids don't mesh very well. So drivers are almost always very calm. They enjoy just watching. I often give drivers high fives as I pass them. um, but this doesn't also work in all settings. So if you're like on a double yellow street, of course, not having the kids coming against the double yellow road, having the parents on the outside and sort of corralling the kids on the inside. Depending on the road characteristics, you could have kids riding on the sidewalk and the parents are in the street. It really depends on what you feel like works for your community. I just like to highlight this because it is what we feel is the best for kids, the safest, and allows us to move through the space as quickly as possible. I always like to highlight this group, the Louisville Bike Bus, Duck Duck Goose Bike Bus. It's a group of friends who do group rides together, and they wanted to address issues with student transportation in Louisville. And so they all background checked each other. They started this nonprofit, and basically they are this like community core power of individuals who are there to support anyone who wants to start a bike bus. So if you're a parent who wants to start one, but you might not have a ton of people in the community that you could reach out to Duck Duck Goose Bike Bus. They've, led rides, they know how to do these sort of things, and they sort of are there to provide the human capital, but you, parent, are doing the interface and the outreach with the school. And so I find this to be a really cool middle ground, because people do want to start bike buses who don't have kids. Um, but it can be tricky trying to start it as an outsider. And so this seems like a really nice way that it's been successful. I will say the idea of, background checking yourself is a great way to sort of introduce yourself. I do get a lot of emails from people in Portland like, oh, I'd love to volunteer in the bike bus. And I'm like, I don't know who you are. And these are people's kids. And I'm sure you're great, but it just makes it a little bit easier to invite people in or to be invited in. Final tips. Um, Starting, oh yeah, I haven't said this one in a while. If you start in the fall, because it's the spring, we're getting up to the spring. So if you start in this fall, promise me you'll do it in the spring. You're working against the weather in the fall. Um, and so the numbers will drop. But if you start again in the spring and you continue doing it, the numbers will go back up because people don't like the weather and they haven't built up their resilience yet. Um, it's not your job to solve all of society's ills, but you should start doing a bike bus and build a stronger community to help address, barriers that exist. And I always, some barriers are access to bikes, bike education, secure bike parking at school and apartment complexes, a par level infrastructure so kids can ride, and volunteerism can be inequitable and unsustainable. And so, what you can do or however you can over time help making it so that more families can volunteer and participate. Pick a route that will allow you to do it consistently. Even, that's just really important. I always like this one. Get a bigger speaker. Believe in your bike bus. Believe in its success. Music's a big part of bike bus. It brings a lot of joy. It focuses the attention on the leader. And the more joyful it is, the more people come, which creates safety in numbers. So it's a very positive circle. And I think it just sort of lowers any tensions that drivers might have when there's fun music playing. Bubbles are always encouraged to have. And I think the last one is people want to work with winners, find the easiest win and go for the next one. We like to spend a lot of time sometimes talking about ideas and not actually doing things. And so you don't have to create a like a questionnaire about, oh, who wants to do this? if you have the three people who want to start a bike bus, the three of you figure out what the route is that's going to allow you to do it consistently. Start doing that. That's your win. And then maybe somebody from the other side of the catchment zone will be like, oh, I want to do this. And so you'd be like, great, find your team and we'll add you to the map and we can help however we can. Um, but I think just really important, getting those wins, having those successes really is something refreshing for a lot of parents and a lot of community members, and especially for kids. And just getting out there and riding makes a really big difference. Thank you so much. Again, we do offer free one-to-one coaching with Bike Bus World. And yeah, if you have any more questions, I'd love to answer them. Thank you. Somebody's muted.
Sorry. Thank you so much, Sam, for presenting. That was really great. I love how you have inspired so many people to do this and have just made it really fun for kids to get to school and safe. And we hope we can replicate some of that in our community. Does anyone have any questions that they want to ask?
I have a couple questions just as we were going through. So even if numbers drop off, are you doing the bike bus rain or shine or snow? You're consistent, or will you notify everyone if it's canceled that day?
Yeah, I don't pay any of you, so you all get to decide what you want to do. And so I'm a strong believer that if you're going to show up, in the colder weather, if it's raining and you're not going to be resentful, other people will show up. And so you kind of get to decide what works for you because you're the one leading it. And just be truthful to yourself. If it's not something you really want to do in the colder weather, don't do it in the colder weather. You don't like, I don't get more points because I do it year round. Like it does, consistency. And so consistency does not mean like daily or weekly. It means as consistently as you can consistently do it. And I mean, I would do it like I personally do it year round because I ride year round. And one winter, it was like the last Friday before winter break, it was pouring rain. It was my son who was in the basket of my bike and this one middle schooler, Dominic. And he showed up. And like it was the best. And for that one kid, it made a difference. And so, again, that does not, you get to decide.
And then my other question is, did you do it separately from the school? Did you have permission slips or do you have teachers involved with you? I mean, I know that you are part of the school system or you're a parent, but in general, did you need permission slips at all ever? And did you have other teacher involvement?
So when I did walking school buses in Boston, I had a lot of teacher involvement just because volunteering was much harder for the community. So that's why we did it seasonally, because I would get the teachers to arrive to school early, then they'd walk the mile to the start and then walk back. I don't think maybe we had permission slips like the first time, but like after that, we were like that's not necessary. And then with bike buses as a teacher, no, I didn't. My principal didn't require it. A lot of schools, one, it's not like a school sanctioned event. Even if it was, a lot of schools have like within a mile field trip form permission that they can kind of like you can take the kids off campus. Maybe you just have to like let the the parents know day of or something. So I don't. Again, you get to make the rules. If you feel like you want that, do it. I'm just generally in the camp of removing barriers, not adding barriers. But if you want that, go for it.
I have a question about your music. How do you attach that, or what speaker system, all that kind of stuff do you use?
Yeah, that's a great question. I need to make a video of like all the different speakers and how people set it up. I have a rack on the back of my bike, and so I put the speaker there, and I have straps that go over it, bungee cords, and I've tried different variations, definitely practice that. Some people have like smaller speakers that just go on their handlebars. Sometimes the leader doesn't have the speaker and somebody else who's riding maybe has like a burly trailer, one of the trailers on the back of the bikes, and the speaker goes in there. It really just varies across the board, but music is an important part of it.
And did you do a press release or did the media and people just start noticing and then they started interviewing you or combination or?
I definitely did not do any press releases. I think I like there's a slide about our first bike bus video. Like I was friends with Bike Portland who reports on bike related topics in Portland. And he came out and did a great video on it. And then I just posted videos online and they did well. And I think, the local news and national news sort of picked up on it.
Jim, thank you for joining us. Jim is from Manzanita School. He's the vice principal. Do you
Hi,
have any
Jim.
questions?
No, sorry I got in late. I'm kind of doubling it up with the basketball game, but
Hey, no problem.
always interested in learning something new and
Nice.
keep building on the program.
And we
Absolutely.
have this recorded, Jim, if you wanted to see it later, because I know you said you were in and out. So,
That would be great. Yeah.
okay, I'll send that out. Mhm.
All right. Thanks.
You're welcome. Yeah.
And thanks, Coach Sam, for getting this going and starting it. It all starts somewhere.
Absolutely. I'm happy to help however I can. It makes a big difference. The kids love it, and it's great for the school community.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think one thing I didn't mention is like absenteeism is a big issue for schools and administrators, and bike buses are a great way, or walking school buses are a great way to address that. And something cool that we've done is there's one of the staff members at the school, you can like do a heat map of where kids have a higher rate of absenteeism, and you could gear the bike bus or the walking school bus to that area of your catchment zone and really target those kids. And again, it's like I think for that one, you know, you don't get what you don't ask for. So that teacher was like, "Hey, Sam," she's also a friend of mine. She's like, "Can you get me 2 e-bikes?" And I was like, because she wanted like her and the other teacher to meet at school, e-bike out the mile, go around the apartment complex, collect the kids, and then like walk back with them. And so I just like posted it online, and somebody donated 2 e-bikes, and they did it. And you know, I think it was something really successful. We've seen when it's been tracked that like kids do show up, and it's a great way to just like build that community, get the kids moving. Um, and if you can address absenteeism and get more kids to school, it's like what a win.
Yeah,
I
that's
know. Oh, go ahead, Anna.
Well, I just had one more question kind of on that note. I know that you said, everyone's responsible for getting home, but have you heard of how kids who maybe take the bus home or they're expected to take the bus home, how they deal with that?
Yeah, I've heard like there's been efforts previously to try to get school buses with the bike racks on them, and that was like a union issue. I think kind of squashed. The bus driver unions didn't want to do it. Um, it's like not everything can be everything for everyone, and it is what it is. And, sometimes like parents will swing by and pick up their kid's bike, and then the kid will take the bus home, or, there's various ways to solve the problems. And if not, it is what it is.
And I know Jim is from a elementary school where maybe the scooter use isn't as high, but the school that I would be working with does have a lot of kids that use scooters. Can you talk about, have you experienced that, or are you experiencing that now with your school bus and how that is working?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely pro anything that can keep up. You know, we try to go at a pace that works for everyone, or we have strategic spots where we stop and wait for everybody to condense. And generally, scooters have been good at being able to keep with the group. They're definitely way more popular now. Like they've definitely picked up in popularity. Um, I think my only concern about like wheeled transportation are skateboards. You know, that's one that I worry like the skateboard kicks out and then it, somebody biking runs into it and then falls down. Um, but I think in like the scaffolding of these sort of transportation options, start with a walking school bus, go to a scooter bus, then go to a bike bus. It's a lot easier to buy 30 scooters than it is to buy 30 bicycles. And, I think scooters are probably a little faster, a little more fun than walking. So if that's something that the community wants, go for it.
That brought me another question.
Yeah.
Do you, I guess, depending on the age of the students and using e-devices, so like e-scooters or e-bikes, and making sure that they don't get ahead of the leaders, or how do you navigate that?
Yeah, I think that's a great way that, well, one, like the e-bike, e-motorcycle issue, I hear is a way bigger issue in California, but I feel like bike education and bike buses and being proactively like teaching kids the skills of riding in a dynamic environment in the road only prepares them to be more competent and confident riders as they get older. And then in terms of like kids going ahead, that's where, going over the expectations, don't go ahead of the speaker or the leader. I always like if somebody's biking ahead, you just turn the music down and then all the other kids start yelling at that person going ahead to get back. And then you turn the music back on when they sort of slow down and get back with the group. And so, and then sometimes it's just like a conversation, like, in a lot of my videos, you'll see I like send the kids to bike ahead of me at the end. And that kind of stemmed from I had a group of fifth graders who, when I told them about the bike bus, they just self-organized like literally the next day. And they just started riding bikes to school together. And then they rode in the bike bus, but they wanted to go ahead. And I try to like go over the expectations with them. And then I just kind of, or like more broadly, and then I just had to have a conversation with them and just be like, hey guys, like, we got to stay with the group. I can like release you at the last like 2 blocks because there's beyond minimal like cars coming. And that just kind of where it stems from. It's just like building that trust and sort of knowing the kids. And then we hit that spot. I say, oh, have a great day at school. And the kids just book it. And then, they're racing each other ahead of me and it works perfectly.
You talked a little bit about safety or some guidelines. Do you go over safety before every ride, or did you send something out with expectations, or
Yeah.
how do you handle that?
I always think I always feel like safety is like a very loaded word. It means just a lot of things to different people. And people are like, oh, that's not safe. I'm like, nothing is perfectly safe and they're like that. But no, I give out beyond minimal directions. It's pretty amazing how kids and just people know how to ride safely and just act like a normal human being in a group. And it is that sort of good peer pressure. We do go over the expectations every ride. I say, don't go ahead of the speaker, ride in a straight line, make predictable movements, stay to the right of the speaker. I think that's pretty much all I say, and the kids figure it out. And I mean, the amount of kids we have riding, how fast we're riding, um, we have beyond minimal crashes. Like no Tour de France, anything. I mean, some parts of the ride, we're going like 15 miles an hour. We're like booking it down the hill. And kids just like know how to show up and be successful, and they want to be successful. And I sort of will say to them, I'm like, we're a team. Goal number one is to get to school safely. Goal number two is to have as much fun as possible. And you just kind of have to like walk that line. But like that's what I would say to my students in PE class. It's like you want to run and have as much fun as you can during tag games, but not be so out of control that people start getting hurt. And so it's like fun, people getting hurt. There's a line, you don't know exactly where it is, and you want to stay to the fun side. And that just comes over time. Like we're not looking for perfection, we're looking for like safe enough, and you get refined the more you practice it. I mean, I'll go back and watch bike bus videos from when I first started, and so disorganized. I had kids passing me on the left, kids going ahead of me, like, it's just all over the place. And I remember there's like one part where this kid's like, "Hey, Coach Balto, I thought kids weren't supposed to go, ahead of you." And I was like, I have it on footage. I'm like, yeah, we're working on it. But it's true. It's like, yeah, what am I going to do? Like slam on the brakes, yell at those kids to come back? It's like, it's a safe enough environment. I know that there was like a parent up ahead. Everything's going to be okay. And we'll just sort of refine it over time.
And law enforcement, do they ever join you, or how have you partnered with them?
So in Boston, we had them, and they'd walk they'd walk with us, and it was great. There's examples of police participating all over the place. I'm definitely like pro community policing and stuff like that, but it's definitely not something that is like necessary. But if they want to come and participate, I think that is that's a positive thing. And then I'd probably also just say, like, if there's seniors, retired people in the community that invite them to ride. Bike bus creates safety in numbers, so the more people riding, the safer it is. And it's just great for that community cohesion piece. And so for the bike bus to my son's school that I started, I'm a parent. My son was in kindergarten. So like it was a much younger group of parents. And so parents are much more like tied to their individual kid. But you need a couple adults that are more like roaming. And so that's where seniors are really good. And so we had Peter, and Peter's wife is super ecstatic for a reason for him to get out of the house every Friday, and he loves it. And even my son who's in preschool, who you're like, all he wants is candy and just like oblivious to the world. Like one morning he goes, "Good morning, Peter," and I'm like, oh my God, like that's the community. Like that's so beautiful that my son knows who Peter is.
Okay, is there anything else, any other questions anyone has?
Yeah. I think maybe
Okay.
like one final message I might say is, I mean, I've never been to where you all are, but I can have a general sense. And I think there is this idea of like, there's just this immense latent demand for active transportation to school. And so if there are projects coming up in the community around, do we put a protected bike lane in? Should we put the school on the outskirts of town with no sidewalks or bike lane, separated bike paths, like versus keeping it in a local town where it's more walkable and bikeable? Like there are people, they might not be doing it because it's not safe, but there is a demand for it. And when you build it, the people come. And so, even if there's not, safe biking areas, still teach kids how to ride bikes, still, advocate for sidewalks and better crossings, because kids, families, like they want to be outside, they want to move their bodies. It sets kids up for a great school day, helps build stronger school communities. And if you don't believe me, or you have never seen the the world of the school car line. We should be avoiding it like the plague. And so I feel like we should have like a national effort, like mobilization to get rid of school car lines, and our policies should all work against whatever created those things. Jim knows what I'm talking about. You don't want school car lines. Nope, 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 you don't want them.
Okay. Anything else? Last minute questions?
No, I just wanted to make a comment that I love how you can do things without it being perfect and then just refining it as you go, because I think that's something that is a little daunting whenever you're starting a new program or getting more people involved. And if it's not perfect right away, or you don't have all the answers and all the kinks worked out, it can be like a barrier and just to not non-start, like non-starting or non-starting something in general. And so I just really appreciate the message to start small, even 2 blocks or even with 2 kids, just and then it will grow as you get the message out. So thanks for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just do it. Just do it. Yeah, just I'm like, and it's also this thing, it's, as a teacher and as a parent, kids aren't looking for perfection. They're just looking to be seen. And I think the more adults can model trying things and learning from those, like, we tried something, it didn't work, we're going to adjust and do it this way. This is how we learn. But like, we're not just endlessly talking about these problems. We're like going to try different things, because that's what we say to kids all the time. It's like, oh, try it and learn from your mistakes. Well, like, us adults should also do that, especially when it doesn't cost a lot of money. We're not talking about like building highways and destroying communities to do that. This is like very low-hanging fruit.
Mhm. Okay, well, I have some other slides, but I don't think I'm going to show them. I think I'll just put them on our website because Sam did a great job covering most of the information. And then the other slides that I have about community events coming up, we have the Bigfoot Adventure Challenge and the Shasta Bike Month Challenge. Bigfoot starts in April and the Bike Month starts in May. And those are challenges that people can join for free and just get outside to bike. And also the Bigfoot includes hiking or trail running as well. So those are great resources to share with families and also school staff that can have teams and in the bike challenge and compete together in a nice friendly competition against other schools. So you'll hear more about that. Anything else?
I was going to say bike to school day is what day, Sarah?
May 6th.
This year?
Thank you. Yep, May 6th.
Okay.
Of course, you don't have to do it that day, but that is the day when most schools will be doing it in Shasta County. But certainly, we've always had other schools participate on other days if it doesn't work. Just like Coach Sam said, it's got to work for the organizer. So if May 6th doesn't work for the organizer, then do it a different day. But I have banners, I have helmets, I have flyer templates. And we also have little triangle light reflectors that will go on the back of saddles that kids can also attach to backpacks. So that's the little incentive thing that kids can have this year. So if you need any of that equipment, we have it, and I'd be glad to get it out to all the schools. Okay. Thanks, everyone. We really appreciate you, Sam, for sharing all this great information. And thanks to the participants that joined us tonight.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay. Have a great night.